Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas, joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And yuck. Yeah. That's all you can say, Brian, is yuck to that entire performance that the Cowboys put out there in a 31-10 beat down at the hand of the Buffalo Bills. I guess just to kick things off here, your biggest takeaway coming out of this game, Brian.
Didn't expect Buffalo to have as much success running the football as they did. They were clearly committed to it, and I think they were clearly committed to it because Dallas's offense did nothing against Buffalo. And I've started to understand this, that when Dallas's offense does not have success and does not make opponents one-dimensional, there could be a problem for Dallas's defense. And you have to give Joe Brady a lot of credit for the game plan they had offensively with his commitment to running the football. But you have to give bigger props to Sean McDermott and the defensive staff for what they were able to do. Play, rush 4, drop, 5 underneath, 2 behind, drop 4, or 4 across, 3 in the back. They made their zone coverages hold up in this football game. And when Dallas struggles offensively and doesn't put up points, that puts a lot of pressure on their defense, because their defense is built to, we say built in a way, they're one of the best teams in the National Football League when it comes to getting after the passer. And when you don't throw the ball against them, now they have to play run defense. And that has become a problem for this team because Dan Quinn and the defensive coaches have tried to mask the issues that they've had at linebacker with the injuries to Overshown and to Leighton Vander Esch and to that crew. They don't have the depth there. They're trying to play with safeties, as we've seen. For the most part, it works out. It works out when you have a lead or you're trying to get after the passer. That works. But the two things that Buffalo had to fear going into this game was Dallas's big play ability on offense and Dallas's pass rush. And they didn't have to deal with either of those in that football game yesterday.
Yeah, this was just a beat down across the board for the Cowboys. This was one that I don't want to put it on a level with San Francisco because I think it was a different beatdown. Yeah, in San Francisco, there was, to be honest, and they'll tell you this, I think the players will, there was some quit in San Francisco. Yeah. I don't know that this was quit, other than the very last James Cook touchdown. That looked like nobody wanted to actually pursue the final 10 yards.
They all got blocked.
It looked like the last 10 yards, though. They were just like, go ahead, whatever. But this was just a good old fashioned beatdown. They kicked your ass up and down the field in every way possible. And I do kind of look at it and go, there are a couple different things on that first quarter that I know it was a manhandling, but you look at it and go, is this game any different if DeMarcus Lawrence doesn't get the roughing the passer on that third down stop? Is this game any different if you then throw on top that Dak hits Brandon Cooks on that ball where he got behind the secondary? Is it any different if Sam Williams doesn't get called for roughing the punter? If those three things go your way, that's potentially a swing from 14-0 at that point, or 14-3 or whatever it was, to you're talking about at most Buffalo probably picks up 3 and then you've got 7 and you coming out of that as a net positive. And then maybe this entire game looks different. The way you call this game looks different. But I mean, those things didn't go the Cowboys' way. No. And not through any, I'm not pointing any fingers at refs to say, oh, you didn't get those calls. Those were calls that I think were fair. But man, this is a disappointing game, I think, because this was the one that you felt like was the best game left on the schedule to tell you if things were going to be different against San Francisco the next time. And what we saw yesterday, Brian, to me, is that football team that was out there, if that same group of players and that same team takes the field against San Francisco yesterday, San Francisco beats them by 32 again. That was my take, was that San Francisco probably beats them by 32 once again.
Yeah, I think that, you gave me the opportunity to say my part of it. And I just felt like, though, that Dallas's ability to score puts teams in a lot of hurt. And it makes teams have to think about how they want to run their offense differently, because you get behind. We saw Carolina. Carolina kept the game close with the Cowboys, and then, they just weren't good enough at the end. Dallas found a way. But what did Carolina do? If Carolina was somehow captured the lead, Carolina could have just ran the ball. Dallas was making enough mistakes defensively with their fits and some of the things that they were trying to do, tackling. They were making some mistakes in that area. Carolina just couldn't run the ball, or they couldn't get the score to the way that it just, became like, okay, hey, we're going to be committed to running the football. Buffalo was committed. They clearly were committed. And you know what? They were okay with you running the ball. They were fine with that. The way that they played, they were totally okay with you running the ball. They just didn't want to give up the big play, whether it's too deep, single high, bracket coverage. They did not want to give up the big play, and Dak missing that ball, or missing the ball to Cooks. That was something, if you're Buffalo, you breathe a sigh of relief because you were beaten. The best route combination they ran all day. And they had a couple of them, I shouldn't say, but the best one that I saw, because the one thing that we've seen Dallas do when they're on it on offense, the route combinations, the ins, the outs, the combinations of the tight ends and the receivers, and then, okay, we're going to freeze somebody, and that allows this guy to run behind, and then, now you got big plays.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in this game, and they missed on that big ball, but the thing was, the route by Lamb coming underneath or across put Taylor Rapp in a situation where he stepped up to take the route thinking that he was going to throw the dig. And now the ball's going over the top. You did exactly what the play design was for. Draw the safety out of coverage, put him down, and then make the ball go over the top. And they missed a play. They missed a big opportunity there to do that. So, that's how the game went for the Cowboys yesterday. Your quarterback was not as good as he has been in the past. The offensive line had some problems, except with some of the run blocking stuff, the protection. We saw one of the sacks where the Cowboys, I can't remember where I've seen Smith look as bad as they did on the one sack that Phillips got. They tried to man the twist. And when's Dallas manned the twist? When have they done that? It's usually we see Smith, bum, 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 bum. They pass that thing off and or they stab it and they stop the penetrator and then it makes the looper have to run the hump. But that's Dallas was not getting it done offensively yesterday. And as bad as the defense was against the run, there were some things with the Dallas offense. But again, I'm giving Sean McDermott and his crew a lot of credit over on the defensive side of the ball. They didn't give up big plays. They almost did, but as the game, when you start to go on drives where, 10, 12 plays and take off massive amounts of time off the clock, they had a 9-minute drive, I believe, that was for a field goal.
Yep.
That's
15-play drive.
That's killer. That's killer. Josh Allen doesn't have to throw the ball if that's the case. So Buffalo, team that had to have a win. But I also felt like going in this game, Dallas needed to have a win too. Just to the things you were talking about. Just for that psyche of hey, we've gone on the road and got a quality victory. Elements were, potentially bad, but we managed that, managed the crowd, managed a really good team, all that. Yeah. It's like they peed down their leg again, it's just like they completely, and I'm going to say this though, with McCarthy and all that, he had a hand in this. I'm sure we're going to talk about the challenge that wasn't the challenge. They call it a blind challenge. He said, I wasn't sure. You know what? The game was going in a way where your momentum was, you were getting beat.
You need to take the risk.
You needed to take that risk. And I always get on coaches about this. Know the condition of your team, be able to manage the game. To me, that's worth a timeout in the first half to make sure that play could have gone our way. That was that important to me. Sitting in our studios at 105.3 The Fan, I'm like, you got to use a timeout. You don't have to challenge it. Use a timeout and take a look at this. I think he carried a timeout into the half.
He did. That could have been the one you used that on.
See,
and you would have won the challenge because the ball was out.
That's clearly. See, that's the things, and you wonder why you go and lose games like that. You wonder why. And maybe this sickness and all this stuff. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm not making. Cowboys have been playing well, but they did not play well at all yesterday. It wasn't even close. Didn't even play to the level that that we've seen them play. Offensively, defensively, special teams. You got to block that ball. Sam Williams, I'm sorry, you got to. But another thing, Bones Fossil, you better tell your head coach what you're doing on some of these blocks if you're going to go after the ball. Because you got your ass ripped for it, But you know what? I give Bones Fossil credit. The first time they rushed the punter, they should have blocked that one too. But here, they catch Buffalo trying to get Hamlin, the personal protector, out, and it's all when Sam Williams. All he has to do is beat Ferguson, the center, and he does. That should have been a block ball, either in the end zone or Dallas's ball down there, but it wasn't. That's those are the kinds of things that cause you to lose football games,
Yeah, it was a game. It was interesting. It seems like such a small moment, but the first time James Cook had that pile up and they just
12 yards.
They rugby pushed the team an extra 8 yards down the field.
Yeah.
I saw that play and I was like, they might be in trouble today. And that's so early and it's such a small thing, but it speaks so much to this question that plagued them a couple years ago, Brian, about physicality and toughness. There's going to be some questions about physicality and toughness coming out of this. Mike McCarthy took a question about it in the postgame show or in the postgame press conference. He didn't like the question very much. We'll talk to Jerry Jones on Tuesday. We'll try to find the most palatable way to ask him about, hey, is there any question here about the physicality that your football team played with? I think in general, the defense has played pretty physical. I think the offensive line is a physical group for the most part, but it's troubling that when you got a chance to show it again, you got the chance to show it in San Francisco, you got the chance to show it this week in Buffalo, that it's twice now that the chance to show that you are a physical, tough football team, it didn't happen. It didn't come to fruition. And those are the games that you're going to play that are going to be most like January playoff football. And you've fallen short both times. You've gotten beat by a combined 50 points.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're dead on with that. Bobby, I don't know if it was a physicality issue yesterday. I mean, I'm saying, I know the direction you're going here. I do believe, and you talk about the push and the rugby scrum and all that, and it happened a couple of different times. But I think that when I look at it, I look at the way that Buffalo blocked your front seven. I look at that, and I say, the pullers, the down blocks, the way they scheme, the two backs on the field, 22 personnel, 21 personnel, have, the Johnson, the back go inside and block on, there were scheme things that Joe Brady did in that game that were really creative with the way that they were able to run the football. I mean, but there was some times too where it was just straight hand the ball and then, maybe you got things solid on one side and bam, the ball goes out the back door. Is that fits? Is that assignment? Is that being in place? All these things kind of coming through my mind. If it was one thing where they were just coming off the ball and hammering, but they were getting into blocks. And I know somebody's out there will like, well, damn, Broadus, did you see your LSU guy Clark get driven 20 yards down the field? Yeah, I did. But I thought that Buffalo did a great job of their blocking schemes of shielding, scooping, double teaming, getting guys to second level. It was beautiful the way that they operated their offense. I mean, sometimes you get in games where you just feel like you're getting your ass handed to you, and everybody's getting knocked off the ball. I thought Buffalo did a great job of securing guys, getting in guys' way, and Dallas couldn't get off those blocks in order to make plays. Now maybe that's a physicality issue right there, But I think there was some really outstanding scheming going on there that Buffalo took advantage of.
You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian. So the run defense is obviously it's really interesting because this is the first time all year they've allowed a 100-yard rusher was to James Cook, and yet it feels like this has been a problem all year, and it has. But Arizona, San Francisco, those teams ran the ball on you pretty effectively. Is the run defense something that is just you've got to hope it doesn't kill you, or is it, or is there stuff that's about this that's fixable down the stretch? Dan Quinn today talked about he felt like it was tackling, it was poor tackling, it was mainly that it was maybe some over pursuit at times.
Sure.
Do you think that the run defense is fixable, or at least are you able to slap a Band-Aid on it for a playoff run?
Okay, light box. I'm gonna throw some numbers at you. I'm gonna give you some tired head here right now. You ready?
Hit me.
Light box, 6 or fewer. They saw that 28% of the time in the game. Buffalo did. They had 7 runs. This is James Cook. This is by the James Cook stats. James Cook had 7 carries for 64 yards. That's 9.1 yards per carry. He had 2 runs that were 10 yards plus. So out of 7 runs, he had 2 that were 10-yard plus. Success rate, 71%. That's when you get 4 yards or more on a carry. So 7 carries, 64 yards. Light box, 6 or fewer. What they call neutral box, which is 7. 7 in the box. Neutral. 10 carries, 76 yards, 7.6 yards per carry. Success rate, 70%, 4 yards or better. Runs of 10 yards plus, 4. So when they had neutral box, when they should have been able to handle it, it's hat on hat, they had 10 carries for 76 yards in that time. Stack box, 8 or more in the box. 32% of the time Dallas did this. 8 carries, 39 yards, 4.9 yards per carry. Success rate, 50%. One carry of 10 plus yards. They had almost 5 yards a carry against stack box against you.
Brutal.
Think about that. And you want to know where they ran? Outside left. Outside left went for 10 carries for 82 yards, 8.2 per carry is where they went there. I told you this. Outside right, 4 carries for 31 yards, 7.8 per carry. Inside left, 5 carries, 23 yards. That's 4.6. That's inside left. Inside right, 6 carries, 43 yards, 7.2 per carry. They had 2 runs of 10 yards plus. Outside left, 10 carries for 82 yards.
Well, and you know what?
Controlling the edge.
No, it's not controlling the edge at all. And you know what? You're going up against a team next week that likes to spread things out and attack you on the edges and run the ball on the edges. They're in. I'm concerned what this Miami game is going to look like for Dallas next week because of.
Do you think it could be like Denver earlier in the year?
It's just like, you know what? You're going to run that. What was that old Washington Chicago 73-0 game? Oh, the old 73-0 game where you just ran it, for 600 yards. Yeah, it feels like a game that Mike
40. I think that would.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel's going to turn on the tape of this game and go, "Why shouldn't I run the ball 60 times against this team?" Yeah. And there's not a good answer for it.
There was a video clip of him one time saying, "Guys, try and talk me out of this, but I'm about to run this ball." He ran it 10 straight times.
Yeah.
Is what he did.
He has no problem doing it at all. And that's
not after what
Dallas is in a bad
San
spot.
Francisco right did too. See, the thing that the defense mechanism, or that's the wrong word. The thing that Dallas has to hope for in the Miami game, and this is going to be hard. Their offense has got to show up in this game. It has to. Because, like I said, Bobby, Dallas puts so much pressure on you offensively to score along with them. And running the football doesn't always. Now, Miami could say, hell, we'll keep them off the field. If you're going to let me have 3 drives of 10 or more plays for 75 yards a crack,
yeah,
I'm not going to let Dallas's offense get on the field. The next 2 weeks are going to be a problem for Dallas. Miami's going to be a problem, and Detroit's going to be a problem. Just from the aspect of running the football. Now, I just looked at the metrics for Miami, but it's like the second best running team in the league. This is going to be an issue.
Mostert and Achane are going to be very difficult for them.
Yeah, and the speed. You don't see speed like the Dolphins now, but the Dolphins have been really up and down. They've had some up and down games. But Dallas,
this is going to be a little bit like looking in a mirror, that Miami team, because that Miami team has had a lot of the same criticism Dallas has had.
Absolutely. So this team is only going to be as great as Dallas rushes the passer. This team is only going to go as far as its offense. That's my opinion. Dallas's offense puts people, like I said, in a bad spot. It makes you one-dimensional. It makes you chase points. You get thrown into having to deal with pressure. You have to get in and deal with blitzes. They tax you when they sense blood in the water. You saw it in Seattle. You saw it. Me personally, I would take a game, Dallas and Miami, like Dallas, Seattle, if I knew that just kept fighting, and Dallas found three stops, 3 4th down stops to end that game. But that's how the best way to keep Dallas's defense from getting exposed even more is about their offense. And that's a lot of pressure on Mike. It's a lot of pressure on Dak. It's a lot of pressure on the offensive line, CeeDee Lamb, those guys. They have to. They can't go out there and roll another stinker out there like they did against Buffalo.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like you feel like, from what you saw, it doesn't sound like Buffalo gave any sort of a blueprint. I mean, look, we talked about this, in the final show we did leading up to it, that, we had said that there was an unlikelihood that Buffalo, like if you watch Buffalo this year, the way they attack teams, Buffalo was not going to let you hit them over the top. Like they did. They refused to do it against Philadelphia. They refused to do it against Kansas City. They will say, fine, take everything underneath. We're not going to let you beat us deep. That's not going to happen. And so the fact that they've approached a lot of teams that way, you had to expect that it was going to be similar for Dallas. But do you think this was just an instance of, I know fans hate hearing this when they hear about execution and things like that. Do you think this was just an instance of Buffalo took away things over the top and then the rest of it came down to execution? There's no blueprint here?
They took Dallas's quarterback out of this game is what they did. They made it difficult for Dak, and all of a sudden Dak's trying to, like I said, you got 5 across, 2 deep. Now where are you going to throw the ball? All of a sudden, all he's seeing is blue jerseys, and he's looking for his guys. Where are my guys? And I'll give you an example. One of the ball late in the game that went down the field to CeeDee Lamb that he got whacked on. Poyer hit him, just whacked him. And Dak read that, and he was right. It started off as a single high cover 3 look, and then it rotated to 2 deep. So as soon as it went 2 deep, Dak saw the opportunity to try and fit the ball into Lamb. But what Poyer did was, we've seen so many weeks now where Cooks runs vertically through, and all of a sudden the safety cheats, thinking, got to carry the vertical route, or I turn my hips to, and then all of a sudden, whoa, wait, there's a ball behind me now.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Poyer never ever did look at Cooks. He never looked at Cooks, and so he stayed.
What did we say when we previewed Buffalo's defense? We said Jordan Poyer may not be the same player anymore, but he will not make mistakes. He's not going to make IQ
you said
mistakes.
That. You absolutely said that. And every safety that we've seen the Cowboys play this year honors that vertical ball to Cooks, and the threat. And they were hoping that they could get Poyer to turn and then run in behind him and throw the ball before he could react. He didn't do that way. That just shows you how many times in that game were Dallas receivers playing defensive backs, knocking passes, and this was a team that really struggled. If you read the metrics, really struggled with tight window throws or creating them, struggled with open throws and wide open throws, near the bottom of the league in all those areas. And they didn't give up nada. It was a tough game, and it just wasn't. There wasn't the route combinations. There wasn't the home run plays, because you're dropping 7 back there, and then all of a sudden that 4-man rush started breaking you down a little bit, and Dak's trying to okay, I'm holding up, sack, or they have a bust. One of the sacks they gave up was, with your right guard, with Martin being out, your young kid at right guard, and he broke down one time, and so all of a sudden Rico Dowdle has to pick up for the mistakes that were made there, at the guard spot
with Bass.
With Bass, yeah. So Bass misses his guy, and now Dowdle has to help pick up because Russo, everybody's kind of, that whole right side starting to cave in.
How was Bass overall, did you feel like?
I felt like overall he wasn't bad. But
whenever I had my eyes on him in pass protection, I felt like he was holding his own for the most part.
He was holding his own. He was not the one time, though, like I said, they're going to try and run a corner route with CeeDee Lamb, and it's open. But what happens? You get Bass gives up the pressure, and now Dowdle has to pick up. Dotson, the linebacker, sees he's key blitz, and he sees his running back pick up. So what does he do? He blitzes. He's like, okay, well, if you're going to help pick up, then I'm going to rush. Well, then him, Russo, Dak's got Dak can't get the ball to Lamb, where Lamb is open on the corner route. He can't get it to him. That was their day yesterday. That was their day of they could not find any space out there. And when they did find space, I still am confused by Dak's interception. I'm confused because there were 2 routes. I don't know. He probably was throwing the ball to Cook short to get the first. But the way the ball sailed, there was a route behind Cooks with Lamb. Did he throw it? Was he trying to get the ball to Lamb and he was short? Or did he throw the ball too high to Cooks? I don't know.
It was by that point of the game, I think it was raining. Is it more likely you think that
shouldn't have been in there?
Shouldn't typically, but if we're saying which is more likely that he just completely sails Cooks, or in the rain does he maybe just short one? I don't know. Did it look like it slipped at all?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. The ball was so high and Cooks was open. I mean, he was open. Usually Dak puts it right in the middle of the 3 and then you get your first down and you just keep going. But that ball was so damn high that I thought, was he trying to hit, because earlier in the game they hit a corner route with CD. They hit a little route on the sidelines that they fitted in there, pretty well. But it's weird. I don't know if Dak was throwing the ball. He just overshot Cooks, and he was trying to get the ball to Lamb behind him. When you see the all 22, you tell me what you think, or if you have the opportunity to ask somebody, please do.
It was a brutal showing there in Buffalo. I'll tell you what, as Nick Eatman pointed out, when you consider the last 2 times they've gone to Buffalo, it was Kellen Moore's 16-6 loss, and the time before that, it was the Tony Romo 5 interception game against Buffalo. So, I mean, we're looking at probably, Brian, out of 180 minutes of football in Buffalo, they've probably played 2 minutes of good football out of that 180 recently.
Well, they've never had a lead there.
Look, the 2 houses of horrors we know now, Buffalo and Arizona. Yeah. Just don't play any games in Buffalo or Arizona.
And the next time they show up in Buffalo, it's going to be a new stadium there. So get rid of that old Rich Stadium or Ralph Wilson, whatever you want to call it. Just get rid of that. Thing's like the Metrodome to me.
It's been rough, that's for sure. You're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love of the Star mailbag. It's where we turn things over to our dear sweet listeners.
Dean Julia got after me a little bit for calling him out.
Did he?
He got after me.
He went at you?
Yeah, he went after me. He says, hey, I know I'm not supposed to ask questions. I'm like, man, please don't do that. I'm just having fun with you folks. Really,
you're hurting. You're hurting the namesake of our mailbag. You're hurting his feelings, man. Come on. First question here from Hillary, also known as Molly Vegas.
Molly Vegas.
Hillary wants to know, she says, do the Cowboys have the personnel to stop the run? Can they make adjustments at this point in the season so they can be competitive with the best teams, San Francisco, Miami, Buffalo, Ravens? Or is this just something that it is what it is and they're not going to be able to fix it until they get new personnel?
Yeah, I think that to me, it's Dan Quinn tried a couple of things. He even tried the slant fronts, and if you go through and just watch the game, He's trying to move his front so he didn't have to play toe-to-toe. He's trying to maybe run blitz a little bit. He's trying to bring guys in, maybe create an opportunity where they're pulling, but all of a sudden you slant, and then you're able to get up the field and kind of create a tackle for loss situation. He tried. He honestly did. I know people are kicking him in the rear end about what they did, but I believe this now, and I just what I've seen now. 2 of the bad road losses were before the offense got its new lease on life. Am I right about that? Before the bye week. Arizona bad loss and San Francisco bad loss. That was pre-bye week. We're changing the offense up a bit. Okay, so you went to Philadelphia, should have won that game. Played good on offense, though, good enough to probably win that football game. But at the end, you messed it up at the Buffalo game defensively, that was just out of whack. I mean, that's out of whack because of the offense. So does he have the personnel to play really good run defense? Probably not. Not now, Hankins, does he make a difference? Yeah, because, Carl
Hankins doesn't fix those edges, though.
Yeah, and okay, and you know what? I can't say anything about Mozzie Smith because what happens is if I do say anything positive about Mozzie Smith, and people are focusing on him because he's supposed to be a run stopper, he's supposed to be a first-round pick. Not supposed to. He was a first-round pick. He's supposed to be a run stopper, blah, 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 blah. Not all of this is Mozzie Smith. I could read Osa Odighizuwa to you. I could read Golston to you. I looked at every single run that Buffalo had. And I mean, you could look at my notes and everybody had a turn of messing this thing up. Osa, Golston, Clark, Bell, Wilson. Just take a guy. Everybody had that moment of, what am I doing here? Kind of a thing. So I think it's going to be a little bit of they could play 8-man box, but what happens? Boom. Let's see the ball going over the top. And maybe they wasn't a lot of confidence in without Hooker there. Maybe
who was a surprise and active.
That was a really surprise active because that one during Thursday I asked about that, and then I got don't worry about Hooker. And then when he went on the inactive list, I went setback ? And it's like, no, it just didn't respond like we thought it was going to respond. And I'm like, cool, that's fine. So anything you hear about Zach Martin, I got that today. Oh, a lot better today. Okay, well, let's see how the week progresses before we say Zach Martin is going to play this week. But to answer Molly's question, your best defense against the run is your offense that can make somebody one-dimensional. They can't fix this right now. Now, they could play Evans and maybe some others. Maybe they go with a little bit more size. This is why I wanted Shaq Leonard. You know why? Because it was going to be a bigger body, a bigger run defender in there. I just had a feeling that this wasn't going to be right. And so that would allow you to take Bell and do other things with him, By the way, real quick, can I give a shout out to somebody on one of the players? Hunter Lipke. I know Hunter Lipke. Pollard ran the ball well. Hunter Lipke, to me, in the opportunities he had as a run blocker, he did a great job. He went in there, dug people out, was physical, hit square, didn't hit half man. Good game. This might be that light switch moment for Hunter Lipke when you watch him play, but he did a really good job. I didn't want to get out the broadcast here without saying something positive about him because there's a lot of times where I haven't said things positive about him.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we've gotten a lot of questions about him lately. He's somebody that fans are really interested in.
Yeah. But
so Molly, absolutely.
Yeah, Molly, I think you are who you are right now. You just need your offense to make opponents one-dimensional right now if you can.
Next question from Chally ATB. If this team cannot win big games on the road, what needs to change? Neither the offense or the defense seems to travel well at all. Remember, this used to be the Amari Cooper line. Like, Amari Cooper just doesn't play well on the road. It's just we're talking about historical differences now, Brian. I was looking this up today. The Cowboys are they've got a plus 171 point differential at home. It's one of the best numbers in the history of the NFL. And right now, they would be the only team in the history of the modern era. We're talking about since hash marks were invented, forward pass behind the line of scrimmage,
Punch
all that stuff.
finger guy.
Yeah. We're talking about that type of NFL since 1933. This would be the only time in NFL history that a team had a 170 point differential at home and a negative point differential on the road, which is what the Cowboys have right now. What could possibly explain this, and how is it remedied?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question right now.
I mean, when you guys, did you ever have a time in your Green Bay teams or anybody where you guys just were not the same team? I'm sure you guys weren't the same team
under
away from Lambeau.
Under the Jason Garrett administration, they were 8-0 on the road. Remember that? Like, I mean, they were terrible at home and they were really good on the road.
Yeah, it was 2014, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy how that went. But to me, I kind of think about the situation with I mean, I don't have a great answer. This offense.
We're all guessing right now at this point.
No, and I'll say this. This would be my best guess for this offense. Okay, when you're at home, we all hear here we go, communication's good, crowd's quiet, you seem like you're in a little bit of rhythm, you're playing in dry conditions, you're on the fast track. There's a lot of things about this home that's really, really good for this offense. It clicks. It puts a lot of pressure on the opponents, but you do see communication. They're able to talk. The calls are made. You don't have to do the hand signal to get the snap off. How many times you watch Dak stab his foot trying to get the damn ball? Now all of a sudden there's the stress of that. So there's some things to this offense that doesn't, it looked very week 1 through 5 yesterday offensively. It looked that way, except they ran the football. And if they could have kept the game in check, they could have run it even more, which probably would have been better off. But to me, it's kind of that problem. Could there be communications problems? Could the combinations, like I say, that offense looked very week 1 through week 5 yesterday, the way it played. It didn't even look like the team that we've seen the previous weeks with the route combinations, the way the quarterback's playing, the blocking. Those things that was really disappointing in that regard.
Yeah, I think you've hit on something though. The communication aspect of it, the cadence, everything that goes into playing at home is
very smooth. It seems,
and I mean, there's something to be said that
flows so well. I mean, it's just bam, 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 bam down the field.
Yeah, and this is a team that in a lot of ways is a finesse football team that's going to play better on turf a lot of times. That's just the natural way that it is. They can play faster. They like to play really fast. That's probably another angle of it. Last one here from Vic, and this is something that you've sort of addressed in broad terms, but maybe a little more specifically. Why every time Dak sees too high man coverage, he just freezes? It's like he struggles to move the ball.
Yeah, it's weird. It's there's
and some of the teams have thrown some too high at him this year, and he's had some success with it. And so I don't know why yesterday was such a problem.
Buffalo, there was no space, and Buffalo was they struggle at that. They struggle. You look at the metrics going into the game. You were thinking, what's an advantage the Cowboys have? Their Cowboys have the advantage of the receivers' ability to run routes and play with quickness and get open. The tight end, the 2 wide receivers, it was like Mike McCarthy had a wet weather game plan that didn't need to be. I'm a racing fan. Everybody knows I love auto racing. Mm-hmm. You put dry tires on when the course is wet, you are going to slide and go and spin and do and everything. You put rain tires on a dry course, you were going to burn up the tires and not go anywhere. Yesterday, to me, seemed very much like dry tires, wet tires. Your game plan probably was going to be for wet conditions. and it wasn't wet conditions until you had fallen behind in the second half. Christy Scales tells us at the end of the third quarter, it started pouring down rain. But up until that point, your game plan appeared like you had a wet weather game plan. And I don't know. It's something you just throw out there, but it just didn't. That wasn't the normal offense that we see. But give Buffalo a lot of credit. And to your question about Dak, sometimes those 7 guys dropping in a zone and all fanning out and playing where they're supposed to play, and there's no openings in the zone. That's a hard look for. That's not only a hard look for Dak, but that's a hard look for a lot of quarterbacks.
Is the key to being able to run that successfully against Dak and the Cowboys? Do you just have to have really smart, disciplined safeties like Buffalo does?
Yeah.
Is that honestly what it is?
It helps because Rasul Douglas was beat so bad on that first play. The ball that went down the field to Cooks, they just didn't hit it. Douglas had to be terrified because every game he's ever played against the Cowboys has been a nightmare for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have been the way to start the game right there if you could have pulled that off. But man, you're the quarterback, the line, the receivers. It looked so week 3 offense, week 4 offense, where there just wasn't a lot to it. It was drop back and hope. A lot of drop back and hope yesterday. Didn't work out.
Absolutely. And hopefully it gets better, Brian, against the Miami Dolphins this weekend. 3 more games to go. Division isn't done yet, but it's looking a little unlikely for you. By the way, as we record this, it is 10-3 Eagles at halftime against the Seattle Seahawks, who are without Geno Smith. So it's setting up nicely for you to be the number 5 seed again, which right now, Brian, that would set up with you going on the road against Tampa Bay.
I will say this, though, Bobby. I will say this. Watch out for the LA Rams. If the Rams are the 7th seed, that's a team that could go to Philadelphia and take the 2 out right there.
They're hard charging.
And then all of a sudden, then what happens? That lower seed goes boom right back into. Or is it lower seed or
San
higher
Francisco?
Seed?
Yeah, lowest seed goes.
Lower seed will go to San Francisco. And hey, who knows what happens with the Rams and Frisco? I mean, they played a lot of these. That my hope. That's how I'm hoping things set up. I'm hoping that somehow this is how you get your home championship game. If all of a sudden the Rams go on one of those miracle runs, and then knock Philadelphia out, then knock San Francisco out. But you got to find a way to win on the road too. Whether you go to Tampa or Tampa, nice win at Green Bay yesterday.
Baker Mayfield just absolutely destroyed that defense.
Didn't see that one coming.
Nope. It's as a wise man once said, the NFL's a strange lady. Brian brought us.
We gotta get those T-shirts.
I know you.
T-shirts.
You have.
Somebody make a T-shirt and send it to Bobby. You know what? This says NFL is a strange lady. Please.
You need to also partner with Kent Garrison for his song "She's a Lady" and make it somehow the NFL's a strange lady. She's a strange lady.
The sickest kids, right?
Forever the sickest kids, man.
Forever the sickest kid. That's a good Dallas band, by the way. Forever.
It is. That's a great song. She's a Lady.
Yep. There you go.
It's a good one. All right. For Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. That does it for us. We'll talk to you guys again next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.